everybody wants to be in real estate or be wealthy, but not everybody wants to be in real estate, if you know what I mean. Not everyone wants to deal with the squatters and the contractors walking off and all of that. But so if you are willing to be that, boots on the ground out in the streets, and these people can still make a profit off of that, it's a win-win for everyone.
Alrighty, folks. One of the things I love to do Sunday is bring you new faces with new stories. Today's story is going to be one of those you're going to probably want to watch a couple of times. We have a young lady who got financial freedom at 37. She only has a couple of dozen doors, and she made it happen. Mindy, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Mindy. Well, why don't you do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience, and we'll get into your story.
All right. So my name's Mindy Templeton. I'm located in Kansas City, Missouri. That's also where I own my portfolio of 24 doors. And as Michael mentioned, I reached financial independence at age 37. I'm now 42. Still doing a lot within the real estate game, which we'll talk about today. And I'm just excited to share my story with everyone.
Love that. So you have 24 doors today. I'm curious, what door count were you at when you earned financial freedom?
So I was at 10 doors at that time. And that's one of the things I love to tell people is I had trouble relating to a lot of stories when I got started, because it was like, I own 300 doors and I have a private jet. And I'm just a normal, average, everyday woman who was working the corporate lifestyle, and it doesn't take that many doors if you do it correctly. And 10 doors. And I will also add that part of why it was so easy is because I also paid off $165,000 of consumer debt. And so I live a completely debt-free lifestyle. I don't have any student loans, credit cards, car payments. The only debt I have is on my properties. So that helped to have a minimalist lifestyle and low bills every month.
Well, again, you're bringing so many of the core one rental at a time mindset issues just in your introduction. It's pretty awesome. I first and foremost love the idea that 10 properties earn financial freedom. Right. One of the things I talk about in my book is just get to 4. Just because you got to think it's achievable, right? Very few of us think we're going to be Grant Cardone. Very few of us think we're going to be, hundreds of units. That's not where you start. It might be where you end up. But if you can think 4 or heaven forbid 10, life's going to be fundamentally different.
Yes. And I love the least amount of doors with the most amount of impact on my life. Like, that is so important. And a lot of people are like, well, if you're only cash flowing a couple $100 a door, how is that possible? And so I've done a mixture in my portfolio. I do have some furnished properties, some voucher tenants, and then regular old boring long-term rentals. And just a mixture of all of that is what helped me to achieve it so quickly.
Yeah. So let's break down the 10 when you earned financial freedom. So it sounds like you had some just boring month to month. You had some, what I'll call Section 8, you called it voucher. And you also had some short-term or midterm rentals. What was the portfolio like?
Correct. So there was at that time 3 furnished rentals, 1 Section 8 property, and then the rest were long-term rentals.
Now, just to be clear, the furnished rentals, were those midterm, dailies? What were those?
So at that time, Airbnb. However, Kansas City, Missouri has passed some rules and regulations. And so now they are all 30+ day stays.
Yeah, it's funny how different cities have really attacked the Airbnb market over the last 4 or 5 years, and people have had to pivot. So that's very, very cool. 30 days, I'd call that midterm, right? Is that fair vernacular today?
30+ days. So they're all midterms now. And one of those, I also have a workshop in the back that I rent out for additional income. So
there you go. I like it. So do you self-manage all of these, or do you have a property manager?
So my furnished rentals, I do outsource that. I tell people that's more of a hospitality, and I don't see myself as very hospitable at all times.
Amen. I'm right there with you.
But for long-term rentals, I do self-manage them. I do what I call a hybrid model. And so I don't self-lease. I use a leasing agent. And then once she has showed, screened, got them placed, got their deposit and everything, then I take over and manage all of the long-term rentals on my own.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to the beginning. When did you get on this journey? When was that first purchase and why?
Yeah, so I spent 15 years in the corporate world climbing the ladder, and I was in a director level position in the insurance industry. So I served my time there, and I'm very grateful for all of the skills I got because my last corporate job, I actually worked for a startup company. And so I got the chance to see a company being built from the ground up. And I had to wear a lot of hats during that while we were small. And so I just learned all the different aspects. And I was like, if these guys can do this, I can start a business, and probably better, to be honest. But what really got me into it was actually kind of a sad story. I have a good friend who was in her 30s. She got diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And just watching her end of life, it just really I just started rethinking all of my values. That was I went crazy, as a lot of my friends said at that time. I sold my luxury car and bought a paid off car. I started taking my lunch every day. I just started doing all of these things out of the normal, because I was like, those things aren't important to me anymore. I value my time, and I know that it's not infinite, and I want to have control and freedom over it. Not that I don't want to work. I just want to have the control to say when, how, and who I work with. And so watching her journey had a big impact on me. And then I just literally started buying rentals while I was still at my corporate job. And I was only at 4 properties when I actually got laid off.
Mm.
And I was under contract on my first flip at that time. And that first flip, and I maybe spent 10 hours at this property. I made almost as much as I did in 1 year in my corporate after 15 years of climbing the corporate ladder. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, yeah, yes. And then, at that time I had also gotten my real estate agent license. And so I initially got it just for myself. And I immediately had people started reaching out to me, wanting to work with me. And so I saw a problem in the market. There aren't enough investor friendly agents.
Oh, yeah.
And so I solved that problem. And so now I have the opportunity where I'm making active and passive income from real estate. And I look back at my corporate years. I made a post a few weeks ago about how it took me like a decade to get, 100,000 in my 401k, and how, just a couple of properties did that for me in a couple of years. And I'm like, it's just crazy to me when I feel like I was brainwashed a little bit, to be honest. All those years, I just didn't realize there was another way because I wasn't exposed to it in my life. So that's, I think, why I'm so passionate about like being so active on social media and helping other people, because I think there's so many people like me that are just going through the day to day and have no idea how much control and power they have over their own lives until you try it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I think you do an awesome job, social media folks. If you want to follow her on IG, Mindy Templeton, just for example, this is a post that you have, and it's one property can be the reason you become a millionaire.
Yes.
Boom. How powerful is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
just,
go riff on that.
yeah, it's just reminding people again, the power that you have. And it's kind of like you talked about, a lot of people get stuck on, like I did, seeing all of those unattainable goals of hundreds of doors. And it's like, if you just start with that one property and you do the boring old route of just placing a long-term tenant and letting them pay off your mortgage and let appreciation and time do its thing, that one property literally can make you a millionaire.
Absolutely.
And then if
Yeah.
you, like you said, if you then say, hey, what about 4 doors? Then you could be a multimillionaire. Like it's easy, but it's not simple, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah. No, I love this. I always like to talk with new folks about their first deal. So do you remember that first deal?
Okay, so my very first deal, I did not know what I was doing at all. I had 0 real estate experience, and I closed on it on my 36th birthday. That was my birthday present to myself. And I had started reading books. Of course, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like everybody does. I started listening to Bigger Pockets. And I also read this book. It was like Smart Women Finish Rich or something. And it was talking in the book about how you should just work at your corporate job, contribute to your IRA and blah, 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 all of these things. And I was like, no, this isn't for me. There's got to be a faster way. I want money that I can have now and during retirement. And so reading books, listening to podcasts, and I am a very impatient person. And so I started January of that year reading, listening, and I made a sticky note. I put it on my refrigerator and it said, I will buy my first property by March 31st. And as I mentioned, I closed on it March 26th. So 5 days ahead of my sticky note. But having that sticky note on my refrigerator where I saw it every day, so my actions every day were aligned with that. And this was another boring story. I bought it off the MLS and it was a little $100,000 property in an A-class area. I have a type. I like cute little houses and cute little downtown areas. And so my very first one was exactly that. Bought it for $100,000, and rents at the time when I bought it, I think were $950. And I remember I had a contractor friend come walk it with me while I was under contract during my inspection period. And I was literally looking for someone to talk me out of buying this house because I was so scared. And so I was like, so what should we do? And he literally looked at me and he goes, put a for rent sign in the front yard.
Yeah, it's like ready to go.
Like, yes, it was. It was a turnkey, 100,000, 2-bed, 1-bath, nothing special. And I painted one room and deep cleaned it and placed my first tenant. I had property management help me with that. And then as far as like the down payment, I didn't have the money saved up for a down payment when I got started. And so I also didn't have enough equity in my personal home yet to leverage that. And so I was like, I found a private lender who had equity, who could do a HELOC on their house. So fast forward, I'm going through the transaction and my loan officer is like, you can't do a gift for a down payment on an investment property. I didn't know that. And so I ended up withdrawing money from my 401k. So it was my money. And then I paid that back with the HELOC from my private lender for the down payment. So I learned so much from that first one. My tenant paid the first year's rent in full, which most people say that's a red flag, right? Don't do that. But again, I didn't know what I was doing. I took it and I was like, hey, this is about enough money for a down payment on a second property. Because that was the most money I had seen at one time at that time. And so that's kind of how I got started. And then I was like, well, I got to pay all these people back. I don't have any other access. And so that's when I learned about the BRRRR strategy. And so my third one I have done nothing but the BRRRR strategy. Because again, I haven't had the capital saved up to buy all of these
Yeah, I love everything about the story, right? You had an event in your life. Your friend had got sick, which set you on a new path. You really understood that you had to create some disposable income, so you got rid of the luxury car. You brought your lunch. All of that was stacking dollars that would become seeds for future purchases. Love that. Then you got focused. I call it a buy box. You call it a type. Same thing. And you just went after it. Love the sticky note on the fridge, on the mirror. And that's just a lot of fun. And you made some mistakes, but you still kept going, right? You didn't sit down and whine. You just figured out a way to make it happen.
Exactly. And then my third property, this is one I like to share the story about because everything that could go wrong did. It was my first one I bought off market from a wholesaler. I didn't even know what a wholesaler was. I found it on a Facebook investors group and I saw all these people commenting that they were cash buyers and it was a $35,000 house. And I was like, I'm a cash buyer. I wasn't. I didn't have $35,000, but I was like, if they're saying it, I can. And so I went and met this guy. He was kind of scary, honestly, because I didn't know what to expect. And I met him at a Mexican restaurant. I signed the paperwork. I had barely even walked through the house, like almost sight unseen, bought this house, third property, off market, no representation for me. And I had 2 weeks to come up with 35,000. So I started DMing the people that were commenting that they were cash buyers. And I was like, where are you guys getting cash? And they were like, talk to this guy. And so I learned about hard money. And so I found a hard money lender that lended me the money for, they paid for 90% of the purchase, 100% of the rehab. And then I was like, okay, so I've got the money. I'm closing. This guy's not going to break my kneecaps because I was so worried if I didn't close, like I was going to be in
Yeah.
hard way. And then closed. And then I was like, okay, now I got to find a contractor. Found a contractor. Like one of the subs got electrocuted. Another guy walked off. I had squatters. I had the police come meet me because there were squatters when I actually showed up, and they were like, do you know the history of this house? And I was like, I don't think I want to know the history of it.
No? Do I?
Yeah. So they told me a lot of stuff, and they actually were really helpful though. They were like, it takes usually about a year to turn a property around from what it was known to be.
Right.
And so I ended up buying it for 35. I put 35 into it, total rehab on the house. And I am so I've bought it, I've rehabbed it, and now I'm like talking with property management. I'm going to place a tenant. I've got my cash out refi coming. Yeah. And the day they were supposed to do the appraisal, guess what happened?
Oh no.
A pandemic.
Ah!
Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, that'd be a new one. Yeah.
The appraiser literally didn't show up, and they just sent me a generic email that said, we're not lending anymore. And I was like, oh crap. Like I have this hard money on this property that's due in a few months. And what do I do now? So I had to go shop and shop and shop. I found another lender. I was able to get it done. My appraisal came in low. What else happened at that house? Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And then I ended up finally getting the property stabilized. I placed a tenant. Like I said, I was all in for like 75 with my holding costs and everything. And that house today, so fast forward, that was 5 years ago. It's now worth almost $200,000. And I have a tenant in there paying $1,500 a month. So it's like, it was rough in the beginning. And honestly, like a scary thing to go through. A lot of that was, but I survived it. And so I was like, okay, let's go do this again.
This bird thing works. Let's go do some more of that. Yeah.
Yes. Very, very yes. Cool. I was addicted at that point.
Yeah, I bet. So how did you go from 10 to 24 doors, right? You're financially free at 10, you're now 24. What were kind of the big jumps, or are you just rinse and repeat? What were you, is there anything different?
I think the big jump was that I got laid off from my day job, and because I had a very demanding corporate job, and also my mom was sick at the time and I was taking care of her. So between kids, a sick parent, work. And so then once the job was gone, my mom passed away, my kids are getting a little bit older. I just had more time. And I also have heard a lot of people talk about the safety net. Like there's a lot of people that are for and against you quitting your job, you know?
Sure.
I didn't have a choice. I was laid off. And so my safety net was cut. And that's like the best thing that could have happened to me, because I sat there for 30 days after I got laid off, brushing up my resume, applying, interviewing. And then one day I woke up and I was like, screw this. I'm never working for someone ever again. Like burn the resume, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And because of that, I had my time and energy and focus to put on it. And so I was able to do more than just the, 5 to 9 at night and the weekend type stuff. And again, I learned so much that I was able to start applying it. And during that time, I also started wholesaling and flipping. And so since I was going direct to seller, that helped me also to attain deals quicker than before. It was just finding them through other wholesalers or on market. Or I got a lot of referrals from family and friends because I'm so active talking about it on social media. So
yeah. Let's talk about that, because that's again something that I think is becoming more prevalent, is social media for, I'll call it lead flow or name recognition, brand, whatever you want to call that. Talk about the importance of just telling everybody what you're doing.
I literally have built an entire business off of social media. I don't do anything outside of making videos that add value to people's lives. I think that's important. Like anyone can go out there and make videos, but you got to make sure you're adding value to people's lives and also rooting other people on. I
Yeah.
have people that I've been following for 6 years and I've watched all of them. Some of them have like TV shows now. Like I've watched all of these people grow, and all of us started on social media. But the biggest thing is the amount of eyes that you can get in front of you. And I'm not kidding when I say private lenders, hard money, contractors, leads, business partners, clients now as an agent, all of that, social media. And I tell people so I do Instagram and Facebook. TikTok is more just for like fun stuff. Some of my stuff on there is really weird. It's not
Mhm.
business oriented, but Instagram is more of my like national platform. So that's where I meet people all across the country. And then Facebook is more my local community.
Mm.
And so that's where I meet, local investors to learn what other people are doing in my market. But also, I think the funding piece of it, that's hard for a lot of people. And I when I tell people I've raised millions of dollars from strangers off the internet.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. Like if you take discipline, create content that is meant to add value, like you said, to the person watching it, it does not take long for
No.
people to feel like they know you and they trust you.
Yes.
And yeah, like you, I've raised multiple millions of dollars uh on the internet, right? And I've done it twice. I did it before video was a thing. I did it before IG was around. I did it by writing a blog. I
Oh,
wrote a freaking blog in 2004 or 5 called wealthbuildingpro.com, and millions of dollars right into the Great Recession. I
mhm.
was paying 10% interest and I was borrowing all the money I wanted. It was it's everything. Like just consistency and being authentic, right? You can't fake it. You just
Yes,
because
and
they'll see through that.
that's so important. Like you said, I tell people that ask me about getting started in social media, I'm like, your goal is for people to know, like, and trust you because they want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And everybody wants to be in real estate or be wealthy, but not everybody wants to be in real estate, if you know what I mean. Not everyone
Oh
wants
yeah.
to deal with the squatters and the contractors walking off and all of that. But so if you are willing to be that, boots on the ground out in the streets, and these people can still make a profit off of that,
Yeah.
win-win for everyone. And authenticity, I think that's a big conversation we're going to start having more about with Chat GPT now. Um, it's getting so much harder out there, I think, because I see so much polished, um, fake stuff. And I think Chat GPT has its place, but I think right now some people are using it too heavily. And so
Mm.
that authenticity is going to become even more important for people like me who still I occasionally do use Chat GPT, but I still add my own flair to it.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. Well, you're sitting today at 24 units. You got a mix of a portfolio. Where? Well, actually, let me ask you about this. What do you think about the market in 2025? It's tough out there, right? High interest rates, high prices, low affordability. What do you think? And again, you can just talk about your market of Kansas City if you like. What do you see out in 2025?
yeah, so I will say in Kansas City right now, you still can almost hit the 1% rule with a turnkey on the market property.
Mm.
So, $150,000 house that rents for 1,500, that's still attainable in our market. There are a lot more rules and regulations in the Kansas City market. So, anyone who's interested in it, I say just make sure you do your due diligence around the local administration and what's going on. So I think that's really important.
Like,
And
give me a for example. Like, give me one example
so,
locally.
like Kansas City, Missouri, banning short-term rentals, and they've made some changes to how you can screen long-term tenants as well.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you can no longer
Yep.
discriminate against,
Yep.
which, yeah, so there's a lot of that going on. So it's so important to make sure you know all of that
Boots on the
information.
ground. Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Like it.
So that's really important. And then I do think midterm rentals have been trending a lot in the past few years. That's what most
Hmm.
of my clients have been doing. I see that kind of dwindling down a little bit now. And the next big thing that I think is really going to take over, not just Kansas City market, but other markets, is pad split co-living.
Yeah, co-living is coming. I see
Yeah,
that in lots of areas. I think it's going to be the next hot thing, which is
yeah,
really dangerous, frankly, because I think a lot of people are going to make money with it. We're going to talk about it, and then a lot of, I don't know what I want to call it, pretenders will come in, and then
yeah.
it just gets messy.
Agreed, agreed. So that's something that I have been deep diving and learning a lot about, and building up my contacts and network. And so I'm ready to help with investors because I do think it's important for affordable living. And then also for investors who are looking to still make a decent cash flow off of one property. But there is so many unknowns and it's so new that there are a lot of, it's just like when Airbnb started, so
Exactly.
there's going to be a learning curve for sure. But yeah, I do see that being the next big thing, probably going into the last couple quarters of the year, because I'm starting to get hit up about it a lot right now. Another thing is small multifamily seems to be doing pretty well, where I have a lot of clients that are interested in a duplex where maybe they do furnish one side and then they do a long term on the other. So kind of like a mixed
Yeah,
use property,
makes sense.
and vouchers as well. I think that's another trending thing in our market because you can typically get about $200 above market rent.
Mm.
So, but yeah, as far as properties, you can still find them on the market in Kansas City, boring old long-term rentals.
There
They're
you
here.
go. Still works in Kansas City, folks. You heard it here first. Mindy's letting you know that. I'm curious, what do you see for yourself, say, over the next 2 to 3 years? You still going to be adding rentals? You're going to grow a brokerage? What's going on in Mindy's world?
Yeah, so I have already built a team. So there's about 10 of us, and
Oh, wow.
we're an investor-friendly agent team. And we've been averaging about 150 transactions a year. So
Jeez.
that
Good for
that keeps
you.
me busy.
Wow.
Yeah. And so 9 out of 10 of my clients are investors as well. I do work with retail buyers too, but it's usually a house hacker, for example.
Yep.
But
Sure.
so yeah, over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm definitely going to continue to work on growing my team, maybe not by numbers, but by transactions, and getting my girls to where they're doing more and also becoming investors themselves. That's very
Yes.
important to me. Um, so focusing on that, I don't see myself becoming a broker. I hate tests.
Nah,
so
you and
uh,
me both.
and I'm in a great spot where I have a brokerage that allows, freedom, and we
Nice.
do our own thing. I have a team. It works for me. And so I do see myself continuing with that. I am still buying rentals. I have a BRRRR going right now that the rehab should be finished up next week. And so I'll work on finding a tenant, placing that. And I'm still going to buy. I'm just not going to be doing, like, there was one point I had like 7 or 8 projects at one time, and I never
Mm.
want to be in that situation
Too
again.
much. Yeah, too
Yeah.
much.
Now, if I was still in my 20s or 30s and I had the energy, hell yeah, bring it on. But I'm 42, my kids are older. I've got, time. I
Yep.
want to I want to live right now, and so I'm trying to be better, and that's
Good for
hard.
you.
So I'm in this weird middle spot where it's like everyone out there is like, you're in your prime, keep scaling. I get all of these messages and peer pressure, honestly. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I'm happy. I'll probably stay in the 25 to 30 door count.
That's awesome. No, again, I have a saying: if you've already won the race, stop playing. It's okay. If you
Yeah.
win it at 37, congratulations. You don't need. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I want to celebrate you. I'm never going to give you peer pressure to go
Well,
more.
thank
So
you.
keep it up. Keep it up. Well,
um,
I have a lot of investors that watch this channel. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, Mindy, and your team, how do we do that?
yeah. So I am most active on Instagram. My handle is investing in your wealth. So you can look me up, add me. I answer all my DMs. I handle all my social media on my
She
own.
does. She really does answer them. I reached out to her and she said, "Sure, I'll come on your channel."
Yes, and my phone number, like, you can call, text anytime, even if you're not working with me and you just need a contact or have a question. I help a lot of people. I'm a go-giver.
Nice.
So
Nice.
my phone number is 816-777-6545. 849. And then if you are in Kansas City or want to come check it out, I have clients after this I'm going that are in from out of state. I'm showing them around.
Hmm.
And I also run a local investor meetup every third Thursday of the month where I bring in speakers on different topics. So I'm happy to connect you to anyone and everyone in my network. Just
Nice.
reach out, phone or Instagram.
There you go. Well, Mindy, I will give you closing thoughts. What would you want to leave with your closing thoughts for the audience?
Just just take that first step. Like, this is something I talk about in a transaction with one of my clients. We're not focusing on anything past that right now, just that very first step. What is that first step for you? If you don't have any background, keep watching the podcast, keep reading the books, but set yourself a deadline. Give yourself a 90-day goal. Make that post-it, put it on your door or somewhere you're going to see it every day. And at some point, it's time to stop watching the podcast, stop reading the books, and jump in, take that first step, and just make sure you have someone there to support you along the way. And just focus one step at a time, like one rental at a time, one step of that one rental at a time.
Yep.
Let's get through the first step of educating yourself. Now, what's your strategy? Pick that one strategy that you're going to focus on. Now, from there, what's your buy box or your type? Just focusing on one thing at a time and not getting overwhelmed with all of the stuff that's out there. Blinders on, focus on
Yeah.
your one step and just keep going.
I love it. I love everything about your story, Mindy. Getting financial freedom at 37, 10 doors gets you there. Then you get laid off and you just go bigger and faster. It's an amazing story. People need to be following you. One more time, what's the Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is investing in your wealth.
That's a great one. Investing in your wealth. Mindy, have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you.